My son shouted into the phone, "Mom will understand. Jessica's 30th birthday only comes once." Those words shattered my world as my wife Catherine lay dying in the hospital bed beside me. The doctor had pulled me aside in the sterile hallway of Emory University Hospital just hours earlier. "Mr. Harrison, your wife has maybe 72 hours left. The cancer has spread too aggressively." I nodded, feeling my legs go weak. After building Harrison Medical Equipment Supply from nothing over 25 years, I had always been the problem solver. But this problem had no solution. I called Dylan immediately. "Son, you need to come to Atlanta right away. Your mother is asking for you." "Dad, I'm swamped with Jessica's birthday party planning. Can it wait until next week?" "Dylan, the doctors say she has maybe 3 days left." The silence stretched between us. Then came his response that would haunt me forever. "Look, Dad, Mom's been sick for 2 years. She'll understand if I can't make it right now. Jessica's turning 30, and we've booked the Four Seasons ballroom. The caterers are coming tomorrow to plan the menu." I gripped the phone tighter. "Your mother raised you for 33 years. She changed your diapers, drove you to soccer practice, worked double shifts as a nurse to pay for your college tuition. She's dying, Dylan." "I get that, but canceling this party would devastate Jessica. We've invited 200 people. The jazz band alone cost us $15,000. Mom will be around when the party's over." The line went dead. Catherine's eyes fluttered open when I returned to her room. "Did you reach Dylan?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He's coming soon," I lied, watching hope flicker across her pale face. For the next few hours, I sat beside her bed while she asked about Dylan repeatedly. I kept making excuses: flight delays, work emergency, traffic problems. Each lie felt like swallowing glass. Jessica's birthday party photos started appearing on social media that Friday night. Dylan in a black tuxedo, grinning beside an ice sculpture shaped like a swan. Jessica in a designer gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. The hashtag read Jessica30 with heart emojis. Catherine died just 12 hours after my phone call with Dylan, at 2:17 Saturday morning, while I held her hand. Her last words were, "I just wanted to see Dylan one more time." The funeral home was filled with Catherine's nursing colleagues, our neighbors, and church friends. 28 people came to honor a woman who had devoted her life to healing others and raising an ungrateful son. Dylan arrived 15 minutes late, checking his phone during the service. After the burial, he approached me in the parking lot. "Dad, I'm really sorry about the timing. Jessica's party was just incredible, though. The band played until midnight, and the champagne fountain was a huge hit." I stared at this stranger who shared my DNA but none of my values. "Your mother died asking for you." "I know, and I feel terrible about that. But hey, at least she's not suffering anymore, right?" That's when something inside me died too. Dylan showed up at the funeral service, but spent most of it scrolling through Instagram. I watched him from across the church as he double-tapped on photos from Jessica's party the night before. The pastor was talking about Catherine's 35 years as a pediatric nurse at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta when Dylan's phone buzzed. He actually answered it. "Elite Event Services, this is Dylan Harrison," he whispered into his iPhone, stepping toward the back of the church. "Did your crew finish cleaning the ballroom? Tell them to be extra careful with those crystal centerpieces we rented." Mrs. Patterson, Catherine's closest friend from the hospital, grabbed my arm. "Robert, where has Dylan been?" Catherine kept asking for him during her final weeks. I couldn't tell her the truth, that Dylan had visited the hospital exactly twice in 2 months. Both times he complained about the parking fees and how depressing the cancer ward smelled. The second visit lasted 12 minutes because he had dinner reservations at a new steakhouse in Buckhead. After the burial at Oakland Cemetery, Dylan cornered me by my Lincoln Navigator. "Dad, we need to talk about Mom's life insurance policy. Jessica and I have some immediate expenses from the party." 24 hours after burying his mother, Dylan was asking for money. "The floral arrangements alone cost $18,000, he continued, loosening his black tie. "And the photographer we hired charged extra for the late-night coverage. We're looking at about $25,000 in overages." I stared at this man I had raised, this stranger wearing my dead wife's son's face. "Your mother's body isn't even cold yet. Look, I know the timing seems bad, but bills don't wait for grief. Jessica's already getting calls from vendors. The Four Seasons wants their balance by Wednesday." Behind Dylan, I could see the fresh dirt on Catherine's grave. The flowers from her nursing colleagues formed a small mountain of color against the Georgia red clay. She had saved thousands of children's lives during her career. Her son couldn't save his marriage from debt for his wife's birthday party. "I've been working at your company for 8 years, Dylan pressed on. "That has to count for something, and technically, I'm your only heir now." The word heir hit me like a physical blow. Dylan saw his mother's death as a business opportunity. I opened Catherine's purse, still in my car from the hospital. Inside was her leather journal, the one she wrote in every evening before bed. I had never read it while she was alive, respecting her privacy. But now I needed to understand something. The first entry I found was dated 3 months ago. "Dylan called today asking for money for Jessica's shopping trip to New York. $15,000 for handbags and shoes. I said yes because I love him, but Robert is working 16-hour days to keep the business profitable. When did our son become so entitled?" I flipped through more pages. Dylan missed his 3rd chemotherapy appointment with me. He said the golf tournament at the country club was more important for his networking. I cried in the car afterward. Another entry. "I'm worried Dylan only loves our money. What if we raised a child who can't love anything else? Robert doesn't see it, but I do." Dylan's eyes light up when we mention financial help, but they glaze over when I talk about my treatment. The final entry was written the night before she died. "I just want to see Dylan one more time. Not for money, not for anything he needs. Just to tell him I love him, and I'm proud of the man I hoped he would become." Dylan was still talking about vendor payments when I closed the journal. I looked at my son and made a decision that would change both our lives forever. That night, I sat in my home office with Catherine's journal and 18 years of bank statements spread across my mahogany desk. Every transaction told the same story. Transfer to Dylan Harrison. Emergency loan, Dylan Harrison. Wire transfer, Dylan Harrison account. I started with his college expenses at Duke University. 4 years at $60,000 annually. While other parents took out loans, I paid cash from the profits of Harrison Medical Equipment Supply. Catherine worked weekend shifts at the Children's Hospital to help cover our household expenses, while our son partied in his fraternity house. Graduate school at Wharton came next. $180,000 for an MBA program. Dylan quit after 8 months. "I need to find my passion, Dad. Business school is too restrictive for my creative spirit." He spent the next 6 months backpacking through Europe on my credit card. That trip cost $45,000. The house down payment hit us the hardest. Dylan was 26 when he announced his engagement to Jessica. They had found the perfect home in Buckhead, just 15 minutes from our country club. The asking price was $1.4 million. Dylan needed $350,000 for the down payment to avoid PMI insurance. "Family helps family," Dylan had said, hugging me in this same office. "Once my consulting business takes off, I'll pay back every penny with interest." What consulting business? Dylan had been working at Harrison Medical Equipment since graduation, drawing a salary of $95,000 annually for a job that required maybe 20 hours of actual work per week. I had created the position hoping he would eventually take over the company I had built from nothing. Catherine's journal entries painted a clearer picture. Anniversary dinner canceled. Dylan needed $8,000 for car repairs on his BMW. The next month, postponed my mammogram appointment. Dylan's wedding budget went over by $30,000. Then, bought generic groceries this week. Sent Dylan $15,000 for Jessica's shopping trip to Paris. I pulled out my calculator and started adding. College tuition, $240,000. Graduate school, $180,000. European adventure, $45,000. House down payment, $350,000. Wedding expenses, $120,000. Various emergency loans over the years, another $265,000. Total $1,200,000. Dylan had cost us more than the entire value of my medical equipment business when I first started it. My father had given me $50 and a firm handshake when I left home at 18. I had built everything from nothing, working 16-hour days, taking risks, sacrificing family time to build wealth that Dylan saw as his personal ATM. The most painful entries in Catherine's journal came from her final months. Dylan missed another chemo appointment with me. Said the Peachtree Golf Club tournament was crucial for networking. I sat alone in the oncology waiting room for 3 hours. Another entry. Asked Dylan to drive me to radiation therapy. He said Jessica needed the car for her yoga class. I took an Uber. The final entry broke my heart completely. I think Dylan only visits when he needs money. Last week he stayed for dinner and seemed loving and attentive. Today I found out he had gambling debts from his poker games at the country club. He never mentioned needing help, but his credit cards were maxed out. I transferred $20,000 to his account without telling Robert. Even dying Catherine had been protecting Dylan from the consequences of his choices. I closed the journal and looked around my office. The medical equipment business that started in our garage now generated $8.5 million annually. I employed 43 people and served hospitals across the Southeast. Dylan thought he was entitled to inherit all of it simply because he shared my DNA. My phone rang at 7:30 the next morning. Dylan's name appeared on the caller ID. "Hey, Dad, hope you're holding up okay after yesterday." His voice carried that familiar, cheerful tone he used when he needed something. I noticed he didn't ask how I was sleeping, or if I needed company during my first night alone in 37 years. "I'm managing," I said, staring at the financial documents still scattered across my desk. "Good, good. Listen, I'm calling because we have some urgent bills from Jessica's party that need immediate attention. The vendors are demanding payment, and you know how these luxury places operate." I gripped the phone tighter. Yesterday I had buried my wife. Today my son wanted money for his wife's birthday party. The Four Seasons is charging us $28,000 for the ballroom rental and catering overages. Apparently Jessica ordered premium champagne for the late-night service without checking the contract. Then there's the jazz quartet we hired. They're demanding an additional $12,000 for playing past midnight. In the background, I could hear Jessica's voice. "Tell him about the photographer, too." "Right, and our photographer is holding the professional photos hostage until we pay his balance. He wants $15,000 immediately, or he's deleting everything from the cloud." Dylan paused, waiting for my response. "So we're looking at about $55,000 in immediate payments. The vendors are threatening to send us to collections if we don't pay by Friday." $55,000. More than most Americans made in an entire year. Dylan was asking for it like he was borrowing $20 for lunch. "So can you wire the money to our joint account today? I'll text you the routing information. Jessica's really stressed about this, and you know how she gets when she's worried about money." I looked at Catherine's photograph on my desk. then at the calculator showing Dylan's lifetime total of $1,200,000. No. Silence stretched between us. What do you mean, no? Is there a problem with your bank account? I mean, no, Dylan. I won't be giving you any more money. The cheerful mask slipped from his voice immediately. Are you seriously saying no to me right now after everything we've been through this week? Everything we've been through, as if he had suffered through his mother's death instead of planning a party during her final hours. You're 33 years old, Dylan. So what does age have to do with helping your son out of a financial jam? It's not like you can't afford it. Your medical equipment business is worth millions. Jessica's voice escalated in the background. Tell him we already spent the money. Tell him we need it. I said no. The words felt strange in my mouth. In 33 years of being Dylan's father, I had never denied him anything he asked for. This is unbelievable. Dylan's voice turned cold. Mom just died, and you're being petty about money. She would want you to help us. Family sticks together, remember. The manipulation was so casual, so practiced. How many times had he played this card? How many times had Catherine and I folded because he invoked family loyalty? Your mother wanted you at her deathbed, I said quietly. Dylan's breathing grew harsh. Fine. We'll figure this out ourselves. Max out more credit cards, borrow from Jessica's parents, whatever. But don't expect us to come around much anymore if this is how you're going to be. The threat hung in the air. For 33 years, it had worked perfectly. Dylan's presence as a reward for my money, his absence as punishment for saying no. I understand, I said calmly. You what? I understand. Take care, Dylan. I hung up before he could respond. At 6:15 that morning, I walked through the lobby of Harrison Medical Equipment Supply 2 hours before Dylan's usual arrival time. His employee photo hung on the management wall between our regional sales director and head of operations, Dylan Harrison, Vice President of Strategic Development. The title I had created specifically for him, a position that required no actual development or strategy. In my office, I opened Dylan's personnel file for the first time in years. 8 years of employment records told a story I had been too blind to see. Missed client meetings blamed on traffic. Expense reports padded with personal charges. Project deadlines pushed back because Dylan prioritized long lunches at the Capital City Club over supervising equipment installations. Linda Martinez, my HR director, had been documenting everything. Client complaints about Dylan's unprofessional behavior during hospital visits. The time he showed up to Emory University Hospital wearing golf clothes because he had tea time immediately after the meeting. The incident where he argued with a pediatric surgeon about equipment specifications despite having zero medical training. At 8:45, I called Linda to my office. Her face showed no surprise when I explained my decision. I'll prepare the termination documents immediately, she said quietly. Security escort. Yes, standard protocol for management terminations. I rehearsed my speech in the mirror, watching my reflection deliver the words with steady professionalism. No emotion, no explanation beyond what Georgia employment law required. Dylan would enter this room as my son and leave as a terminated employee. At 9:45, Dylan strolled in 20 minutes late, joking with our receptionist about his recovery from Jessica's birthday party. His laughter echoed through the lobby, while my employees glanced nervously toward my closed office door. He stopped at the coffee machine, completely oblivious to what awaited him. Dylan, please come to my office immediately, I announced through the intercom. Sure, Dad. Just let me grab my coffee. Now, Dylan. The silence that followed told me he had heard the change in my tone. His footsteps approached slowly, heavier than usual. When he opened my door and saw Linda waiting with paperwork, his smile faltered. What's with the formal setup? He attempted his usual casual tone, but uncertainty crept through. I remained seated, hands folded on my desk. Dylan, your employment with Harrison Medical Equipment Supply is terminated effective immediately. His laugh sounded forced. Very funny, Dad. What's this really about? I slid the termination papers across the polished surface. Please review these documents and sign where indicated. The papers seemed to burn his fingers as he picked them up. His eyes scanned the legal language, face growing pale. You can't be serious. This is our family business. This decision is based on your work performance and professional conduct. Your position has been eliminated due to restructuring. This is about yesterday's phone call, isn't it? His voice cracked slightly. Look, I'm sorry about asking for money. We can work this out. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. Dylan's demeanor shifted from disbelief to desperation. Mom wouldn't want this. You know she wouldn't want you destroying our family over money. I pressed the security button under my desk. This is a business decision, not a personal one. Marcus Thompson, our head of security, appeared in the doorway. Dylan's face flushed red as he realized the humiliation was real. Employees had gathered in the hallway, watching their former vice president being escorted out like a common criminal. Dad, please. Dylan's final appeal came as he grabbed his coffee mug and desktop photo of Jessica. Think about what this means for our relationship. I met his eyes for the first time during the encounter. You chose a birthday party over your dying mother. Our relationship ended 12 hours ago. Through my office window, I watched Dylan load his pathetic collection of personal items into his BMW. His shoulders shook with rage or grief, I couldn't tell which. When he looked back at the building one last time, I had already turned away. Linda returned with the signed paperwork. All access codes have been changed. His computer access is terminated. Building security has his photo. I removed Dylan's photograph from the management wall myself, placing it face down in my desk drawer. The empty space looked cleaner somehow. At 2:30 that afternoon, I walked into the law offices of Chen and Associates, carrying my leather briefcase. Michael Chen had been my attorney for 20 years, handling everything from business contracts to Catherine's will. His corner office overlooked downtown Atlanta, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline. Robert, I'm so sorry for your loss, Michael said, rising from behind his mahogany desk. Catherine was a remarkable woman. Thank you. I need to make some changes to my estate planning. Michael's expression shifted to professional mode. Of course. Updating beneficiaries after Catherine's passing is standard procedure. No. I opened my briefcase and extracted the documents. I'm removing Dylan entirely from my will. The words hit Michael like a physical blow. His professional composure wavered as he processed the implications. Robert, I need to understand what's driving this decision. This is an extremely significant change. I explained Dylan's refusal to visit his dying mother, his absence from her final hours, his phone call requesting $55,000, less than 24 hours after the funeral. Michael's face darkened with each detail. I want to create a completely new will, I continued. The primary beneficiary will be the Catherine Harrison Memorial Foundation. Michael leaned forward, his concern now focused on legal implications. Robert, I'm obligated to ensure you're thinking clearly about this decision. Are you certain this isn't grief affecting your judgment? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I outlined my vision. Education scholarships for underprivileged children whose parents couldn't afford college tuition. Cancer research funding at Emory University's Winship Cancer Institute. Pediatric nursing scholarships at Georgia State University. Causes Catherine had supported throughout her career. Dylan is to be explicitly excluded along with any future descendants, I said firmly. Michael's admiration grew as I detailed the foundation structure. Moving my company assets into an irrevocable trust would protect everything from potential lawsuits Dylan might file. I would retain control during my lifetime, with the foundation assuming ownership upon my death. We'll need to change all insurance beneficiaries, Michael noted, making detailed notes. Life insurance, disability coverage, business policies. This is extremely thorough planning. I had decided our family home would be sold immediately, proceeds donated to establish the foundation's endowment. Catherine's jewelry would be auctioned through Christie's with funds supporting cancer research. The only exception was Catherine's wedding ring, which would be buried with me when my time came. "What about Dylan's childhood belongings in your house?" Michael asked gently. "Donated to Goodwill. I'm systematically removing Dylan from my life." Michael fulfilled his professional duty by questioning my mental state and decision-making capacity. My rational responses and detailed planning demonstrated clear thinking. He gradually shifted from concerned friend to admiring professional. "This foundation will help thousands of families," he said, reviewing my financial projections. "Catherine would be proud of this legacy." The formal signing ceremony involved 2 legal witnesses from Michael's firm. My steady signature contrasted with the magnitude of each decision. Michael explained that these documents took immediate legal effect. Dylan was now completely disinherited. "I want Dylan to receive formal notice of this change," I instructed. "Are you sure that might prompt him to contest the will?" "Let him try. You've documented my mental competency thoroughly." Additional legal protections followed quickly. Power of attorney documents, removing Dylan's authority over my medical decisions. A living will with specific instructions, excluding Dylan from any healthcare choices. Michael documented everything with meticulous precision. Tomorrow I would visit SunTrust Bank to update all accounts, removing Dylan as beneficiary from retirement funds and investment portfolios. The next evening, I attended the monthly board meeting at Peachtree Hills Country Club. 12 board members gathered around the mahogany conference table in the Jefferson Room, discussing routine club business before our official meeting. The smell of leather furniture and aged bourbon mingled with whispered conversations about recent events. William Hayes, our club president, approached with genuine sympathy. "Robert, the memorial service was beautiful. Catherine would have been pleased with the turnout." "Thank you for the flowers," I replied graciously. Patricia Morton, Catherine's sister and a longtime club member, joined our conversation. "I kept looking for Dylan during the service. Where was he during Catherine's final days?" The question I had been expecting hung in the air. I paused, then decided truth would serve Catherine's memory better than diplomacy. Dylan chose not to visit his dying mother because he was planning his wife's birthday party. The shocked silence spread like ripples across water. Patricia's face went pale. "What do you mean chose not to visit?" I delivered Dylan's exact words about Jessica's 30th birthday being more important than his mother's final hours. The visible disgust on board members' faces told me everything about their values. Values Dylan had abandoned completely. William's wife, Nancy, had been listening from the hallway. Within minutes, she was making phone calls. The story reached the Buckhead Ladies Bridge Club within an hour, then spread through Atlanta's social elite like wildfire through dry grass. I returned home unaware of the social storm I had unleashed. The first consequences struck Jessica the next morning. Her yoga instructor at Core Power Yoga in Buckhead asked her to leave mid-session. "We prefer members with strong family values," came the cold explanation from the studio manager. Dylan's lunch invitation at the Capital City Club was rescinded with a polite but firm phone call. "Unfortunately, your reservation has been canceled due to member concerns." Their regular table at Bones Restaurant became permanently unavailable. The maitre d' claimed they were fully booked for the foreseeable future. Jessica's confusion turned to growing anger as patterns emerged across their social circle. Saturday morning brought Dylan's most humiliating moment. His regular golf foursome at Eastlake Golf Club made transparent excuses and left after 9 holes. The pro shop manager suggested Dylan might be more comfortable playing elsewhere. He walked to his BMW alone, understanding that everyone knew about his choice to prioritize a birthday party over his dying mother. Jessica's shopping experience at Phipps Plaza shattered her remaining illusions. The personal shoppers at Saks Fifth Avenue who had always greeted her warmly now offered cold professional service. Her Neiman Marcus credit application faced mysterious delays. Store managers who had once accommodated her every request suddenly became unavailable. Dylan's professional isolation proved equally devastating. Job interviews scheduled through headhunters were canceled without explanation. Former business contacts at medical device companies stopped returning calls. His networking lunch at the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce became awkward and brief as colleagues made excuses to end conversations. The final blow came at Salon Red in Buckhead, where Jessica's regular appointment was suddenly canceled. Overhearing other clients discuss that heartless man who abandoned his dying mother, she fled in tears. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution Society columnist mentioned the disappointing absence of family during recent difficult times in her weekly feature. Church congregation members at North Point Community Church expressed open disapproval. Former friends crossed the street to avoid Dylan and Jessica at public events. Dylan's desperate attempts to explain the situation fell on deaf ears. His claims that I was exaggerating the story met with universal disbelief. Atlanta's tight-knit social community had rendered their verdict. My phone rang during breakfast 3 weeks later. Thomas Bradley, the manager at SunTrust Bank, sounded uncomfortable. Mr. Harrison, Dylan and Jessica's mortgage payment is 45 days overdue. The amount due is $21,400. You're still guaranteeing the loan, correct? I paused, considering the implications. I'd like to schedule a meeting this morning to discuss changes to my guarantees. At 9:30, I walked through SunTrust's marble lobby on Peachtree Street past the oil portraits of founding members who had built their fortunes on honest work and family values. Thomas Bradley's corner office overlooked the downtown skyline where cranes and construction equipment worked to build Atlanta's future. Thomas's nervous demeanor was evident as he reviewed Dylan and Jessica's files spread across his mahogany desk. Mortgage papers, loan agreements, and guarantee forms created a paper trail of financial dependency that was about to end permanently. Robert, I appreciate you coming in on short notice, Thomas said, his voice carrying uncomfortable formality. As you know, the mortgage balance is currently $1.1 million. Dylan's monthly payment is $6,800. I sat perfectly composed, hands folded. I understand you need my guaranteed payment. Well, yes, as you've done for the past 18 months, when they've missed payments. Thomas's assumption hung in the air, like smoke before a fire. He had no idea what was coming. I'm withdrawing my guarantee effective immediately. The banker's face went pale. I don't understand. You've guaranteed this loan for 8 years. I presented pre-drafted legal documents from Michael Chen's office. You'll find everything in order. 30 days notice as required by Georgia banking law. Thomas frantically called the bank's legal department, while I sat quietly watching morning traffic flow across the Peachtree Street Bridge. The lawyer's voice through the speakerphone confirmed what Thomas feared. My withdrawal was perfectly legal and binding. This means we'll have to begin foreclosure proceedings, Thomas said weakly. I understand. Please expedite the process. Meanwhile, across town at their Buckhead mansion, Dylan endured his 8th job interview in 2 weeks. The hiring manager at Medtronic, a major medical device company, gave him the same cold reception he had learned to expect. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Harrison. We'll be in touch." The polite dismissal carried finality. Dylan's growing desperation showed in his slumped shoulders as he walked to his BMW in the parking deck. Word had spread through Atlanta's medical device industry about the son who abandoned his dying mother. That afternoon, Jessica discovered the credit card crisis at Neiman Marcus. Her Black American Express card was declined for a simple purchase, a $200 scarf, to replace one she had damaged. "There must be some mistake," she told the embarrassed sales associate. Her angry call to American Express revealed the devastating truth. "Your co-signer has withdrawn his guarantee, Mrs. Harrison. The account is suspended pending full payment of the outstanding balance of $47,000. Jessica's public humiliation deepened as other shoppers watched her argue with customer service on her iPhone. The crystal-clear reality hit like a sledgehammer. I had systematically removed every financial safety net they had taken for granted. Dylan and Jessica returned home to find electricity disconnected. Georgia Power's notice cited unpaid bills totaling over $1,800. Dylan's failed negotiations with the payment department ended when they discovered his employment termination from Harrison Medical Equipment. Their first night by candlelight became a crash course in financial reality. Jessica paced their dark living room, designer heels clicking against hardwood floors, accusing Dylan of destroying their lives with his selfishness. His weak attempts to blame me for being vindictive met with her growing hysteria. "Fix this or I'm gone," she declared with venom that could cut glass. Dylan's desperate credit applications were denied instantly. His debt-to-income ratio had become impossible without steady employment. Jessica's maxed-out cards offered no relief. For the first time in their marriage, they discussed bankruptcy with genuine fear. The garage sale of their luxury items brought pathetic returns. Wedding gifts that had cost guests hundreds of dollars sold for $20 each. Former friends drove past their driveway but didn't stop to browse. Jessica watched her jewelry collection disappear to strangers while Dylan sold his golf clubs to a teenager for $50. The BMW's repossession in broad daylight provided entertainment for their buckhead neighbors. Dylan's humiliation was complete as he removed personal items under the repo man's impatient supervision. 6 months after my bank meeting, the Fulton County foreclosure auction took place on the courthouse steps. I observed from across Pryor Street, in my black Lincoln Navigator, watching as 4247 Tuxedo Road Dylan and Jessica's former dream home went up for public sale. The county auctioneer read the legal description with bureaucratic precision, while a small crowd of real estate investors and curious onlookers gathered on the granite steps. Dylan and Jessica stood apart from the crowd, Jessica's tears reflecting the autumn sunlight. Through my binoculars, I watched their final humiliation unfold in real time. "Opening bid is $400,000 for this 6-bedroom colonial," the auctioneer announced through his portable microphone. A woman in a navy business suit raised her numbered paddle confidently. Dylan frantically tried to identify her while whispering urgently to Jessica. The bidding reached $520,000, with only 2 participants remaining: the mystery woman and a local contractor wearing work boots. When Michael Chen arrived and nodded subtly to the woman in navy, Dylan's growing suspicion crystallized into shocked realization. "That's Dad's lawyer," he whispered to Jessica, his voice carrying across the quiet crowd. Jessica's disbelief was audible. He couldn't do this to us." Dylan's desperate attempt to approach the mystery bidder was prevented by Fulton County deputies. The auction continued with mechanical efficiency, while Dylan's world collapsed in broad daylight. $530,000, called the woman in navy blue. Going once, going twice, sold to bidder number 7. Dylan's legs gave out. Jessica's scream echoed off the courthouse walls as the auctioneer's gavel sealed their fate. This is our home. We have nowhere to go. I exited my navigator and walked toward the courthouse steps. My presence caused Dylan to understand the complete scope of my 6-month strategy. The guarantee withdrawal, the perfect timing, the bid amount calculated to exactly match the remaining mortgage balance plus fees. Everything had been orchestrated with business precision. The mystery bidder revealed herself as Linda Martinez, my HR director, acting as agent for the newly formed Martinez Holdings LLC. Dylan stumbled toward me on shaking legs, his broken voice barely audible above the dispersing crowd. "How could you do this to us, Dad?" "I didn't do anything," I replied calmly. "The bank did what banks do when people don't pay their mortgages." His desperate pleas about Jessica's pregnancy and their need for stability met my cold response. "You should have thought about that before choosing a birthday party over your dying mother." Jessica's final attack came as a wild lunge, screaming accusations about elder abuse and mental incompetence. Michael Chen documented her hysteria with his iPhone, while deputies escorted her away from me. The entire scene provided perfect evidence of their true character for any future legal proceedings. 2 weeks later, the moving truck looked pitifully small for their former lifestyle. Jessica threw clothes into cardboard boxes with violent anger, while Dylan carefully wrapped Catherine's crystal vase, the last gift that connected him to his mother. Their former neighbors watched from behind curtains, but offered no help. The social exile was complete. Jessica's ultimatum came that evening in their studio apartment above a Chevron station on Buford Highway. "I can't live like this anymore, Dylan. My parents were right about you." Her confession about reconnecting with her ex-boyfriend Marcus, who owned a successful restaurant chain, marked their marriage's breaking point. "I married into a wealthy family, not this poverty." Her final cruel words cut deepest. "Your father was right about us all along." Dylan spent his final night alone in the empty Buckhead mansion, walking through rooms filled with memories of better times. In the kitchen drawer, he found Catherine's hidden note from months earlier. "Dylan, remember we love you no matter what." For the first time since his mother's death, genuine tears of regret fell as he understood what he had truly lost forever. 6 months later, Dylan arrived at my front door at 7:45 on a cold December evening. His finger hovered over the doorbell for a full minute while I watched from the living room window. When I finally opened the door, I didn't invite him inside. Dylan's appearance shocked me. Unshaven, wearing a wrinkled Quick-Trip uniform and jeans with holes in the knees. He had aged 10 years in 12 months. His obvious weight loss and defeated posture contrasted sharply with the arrogant young man who had once demanded $55,000 for party bills. "Dad, I know I messed up terribly." He began, his voice shaking as he launched into what sounded like a rehearsed speech. "I understand my mistakes now. I've learned what really matters in life." I listened passively from the doorway as he described his current situation. Living in a converted garage behind a house in East Point, working the night shift at Quick Trip on Campbellton Road for $11 an hour. Jessica had moved to Charleston with her restaurant owner boyfriend, taking their unborn child with her. Dylan hadn't spoken to his ex-wife in 4 months. "I've been going to counseling at the community center," he continued desperately, "working through my issues with entitlement and selfishness. The therapist says I have narcissistic tendencies that stem from never being told no." When he switched tactics, suggesting I must be lonely in the big house and offering to move back in to take care of me, I recognized every manipulation technique he was using. The same patterns, just wrapped in therapy language. "What was your mother's favorite flower?" I asked suddenly. Dylan paused, clearly caught off guard. "Roses." Wrong answer. Catherine loved daisies, had grown them in our garden for 37 years. "What was her favorite color?" "Blue." Wrong again. Catherine's favorite color was yellow, like the sundresses she wore every summer. When was her birthday? Dylan hesitated, then guessed. September 12th. March 15th, I said quietly. Your mother's birthday was March 15th. My realization was complete. Dylan had never really known Catherine at all. 33 years of living in the same house, and he couldn't name 3 basic facts about the woman who had given him life. His growing frustration with my questions revealed his true nature unchanged. The old entitled tone crept back into his voice. This is ridiculous, Dad. Just tell me what you want me to say. I'll say whatever you need to hear. Eventually, his real purpose emerged through the therapeutic language. Okay, yes, I need help. I'm 3 months behind on rent. The garage owner is threatening eviction. I need $800 by Friday or I'll be homeless. The amount was pathetic compared to his previous demands, but Dylan still saw me as an ATM. His desperation had only changed the denominations. His final manipulation involved Catherine's memory. Mom would be heartbroken to see us like this, Dad. She always believed in second chances and forgiveness. I miss her too. We both loved her. For a moment I wavered, remembering Catherine's kind heart and her belief in redemption. Then I realized this was exactly what Catherine had feared most. You want to know what your mother really thought about you? I retrieved Catherine's leather journal from the hall table where I kept it, now a daily reminder of her wisdom. I read her own words aloud. I'm worried Dylan only loves our money. What if we've raised a child who can't love anything else he calls when he needs something, but never just to talk? I'm dying, and he doesn't even know my favorite flower. Dylan's shocked silence told me everything I needed to know. Your mother died knowing exactly what you are, I said calmly. She changed her will 3 weeks before dying, because she knew you would waste every penny on selfish pursuits. Dylan's mask finally dropped completely. His angry threats about contesting the will and calling me senile revealed the vindictive nature that therapy hadn't touched. His voice rose to a shout as neighbors turned on their porch lights. I hope you die alone in this house, you bitter old man. Mom would be disgusted by what you've become. I stepped back and closed the door quietly. Dylan pounded on it for several minutes while I walked to the kitchen and made tea as if nothing had happened. When his car finally drove away, I sat in Catherine's favorite chair, holding her journal, feeling completely at peace for the first time since her death. 1 year later, I walked through Westview Cemetery on a sunny spring morning, carrying fresh daisies to Catherine's grave. Dogwood trees bloomed white and pink along the walking paths, while cardinals sang in the towering oak trees. I looked healthier and more at peace than I had felt in years. Kneeling beside Catherine's polished granite headstone, I arranged the yellow daisies while speaking softly about the Catherine Harrison Memorial Foundation's remarkable first year. 35 scholarships awarded to underprivileged students at Georgia State University. $200,000 donated to pediatric cancer research at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. A new wing dedicated at the nursing school bearing Catherine's name. Dylan works at the Quick Trip on Campbellton Road, I reported matter-of-factly to her headstone. Night shift manager now. Makes $13.50 an hour. His divorce was finalized last month. Jessica married the restaurant owner in Charleston. They named their daughter Catherine, though Dylan has never met his child. Dylan lived in complete social isolation and financial struggle exactly as he had chosen when he prioritized a birthday party over his dying mother's final hours. I felt no satisfaction in his suffering, only the quiet peace that comes from seeing justice naturally unfold. Leaving the cemetery, I drove to the Waffle House on Memorial Drive, where Dylan had been transferred after the East Point location closed. I ordered coffee and waited in a corner booth, watching him work behind the counter in his yellow uniform shirt. When our eyes met across the restaurant, his shocked recognition was immediate. Dylan approached my table, hesitantly, coffee pot in hand. "How are you doing, Dad?" His voice carried genuine humility for the first time in his adult life. "I'm well, thank you," I replied, accepting the coffee refill. "I know sorry isn't enough for what I did," he said quietly, glancing around to make sure his manager wasn't watching. "I understand now what I lost. It was never really about the money, was it? You wanted me to love you and Mom, not your wallet." "Your mother knew that too," I said simply. For the first time since Catherine's death, Dylan's tears seemed genuine rather than manipulative. "I think about her every day, about how I failed her when she needed me most. I can't forgive myself for choosing Jessica's party over Mom's last hours." "That's something you'll have to live with," I told him honestly. When Dylan asked if there was any possibility of rebuilding our relationship, I answered with complete honesty. "I don't know, Dylan. Maybe someday. But you'd have to prove you've really changed, not with words, but through consistent actions over years." I described my new life to him. Volunteer work 3 days a week at the Boys and Girls Club in Southwest Atlanta. New friendships with other foundation board members who shared my values. Sunday dinners with the Rodriguez family, whose son had received our first scholarship and was now studying pre-med at Emory University. I was dating Grace Patterson, a retired teacher, whose husband had died of cancer 2 years earlier. We had met at a grief support group at Northside United Methodist Church. Grace understood loss and appreciated simple gestures like bringing daisies instead of expensive roses. "I'm proud of what you built with the foundation," Dylan said, refilling my coffee cup. "Mom would love knowing her memory is helping kids go to college." "She would." I agreed, leaving a $5 tip on a $3 check. Driving home past the former Buckhead mansion Dylan had lost, I saw the Martinez family had transformed it into a warm home filled with love and gratitude. 3 children played in the front yard where Catherine had once tended her flower garden. Mr. Martinez waved from his driveway as I passed. That evening, I prepared dinner in the kitchen Catherine and I had shared for 37 years, setting one place at the table without sadness. My phone rang with Grace calling about our weekend plans to visit the botanical garden together. Standing in Catherine's garden at sunset, pruning the yellow daisies she had planted decades earlier, I felt the deep satisfaction of a man who had honored his wife's memory while teaching his son the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes love requires letting people face the consequences of their choices, even when it breaks your heart to watch. This story offers a crucial message for older parents who may be enabling adult children through unlimited financial support. True love sometimes requires the courage to say no and allow natural consequences to teach valuable lessons. Many elderly Americans feel compelled to give their children everything they never had. However, unconditional financial gifts can create dependency and entitlement rather than gratitude and character. Robert's story demonstrates that setting boundaries protects both generations from unhealthy relationships. Remember, you worked hard for your resources and deserve respect. Don't let guilt prevent you from making decisions that honor your dignity and values.